That takes us back to the N word with a hard R.
Sure.
Why?
For the particular examples that I was giving, or for the particular conversations that I was having, if you're going to have challenging conversations around certain words, I think you should probably be able to say them. Otherwise, it feels really ridiculous to me. That's like
Do you still believe that?
Yes, and not like calling people those words, but in having conversations about those words, I would say that I still believe that. Yeah.
But don't you think, as you said, that using those words actually gives motivation and strength to people who have hate in their hearts?
I think depending on the context of what's going on, I think that that's going to be a big driver in terms of how people are going to perceive or take it. So in a conversation about the N word, I don't think I would normally say the N word. We would just talk about the word, much the same way that like in like in a movie, like in Django, people use the N word. Should that be censored in that movie, or in the context of that movie, is it being employed in a way where these aren't good people? You're not supposed to like them, and that's what the audience walks away with.
Yeah, but that context is different than conversation. It feels like in conversation,
Mm-hmm.
you using that word normalizes it. And that normalizing that word is going to make it easier for people who use that word in a hateful way to use it. Same with the F word, the F slur. If you use that casually and normalize it in a way that's not hateful, you use it in a way that's not hateful, but the side effect is that it normalizes it, then people who do use it in a hateful way would be more likely to use it. Therefore, mathematically looking at the equation of the number of times the N word or the F word is used throughout the world,
Mm-hmm.
it increases the number of times it's used in a hateful way.
Yeah, I think that human
And
beings.
you're part of that problem,
Yeah.
Stephen.
I don't agree. I understand the thought process, but I don't know if using certain words within different contexts is going to necessarily normalize like the hateful use of that word. That is an argument that I've heard people use. Somebody will say like, okay, well, hold on. That should never be used ever, because by virtue of you normalizing it, even in an inoffensive environment, you increase the proclivity for people to use it in a potentially more offensive environment. And my argument is always that like, no, I don't think that crossover exists. But if you did want to take that argument, and maybe you do feel this way, I think that you get really problematic when you run into communities that do use certain words that people would say, well, they should be allowed to do it. So for instance, if you think that any utterance of the N word at all is highly problematic and might increase hatred, then like the entire rap industry has to dramatically change the way that they engage with the N-word. And obviously a lot of people that criticize people's use of the N-word aren't going to turn to rappers and say, well, you guys can't say it either.
No, it's who uses the N-word. That's what it's not. So it's not just the word, it's it is context dependent. But I would say that you, as a white person, having conversations, the context there is the kind that would lead to an increase in hate.
Do you think the N-word should be censored in the dictionary?
No. And I believe there's a Wikipedia page on it and it's not censored. I think it should be in the dictionary. I think the context of casual conversation, like I said, I just believe that on the internet, having humor, having fun conversations as you have on your streams, that leads to the normalization of the word without any educational value.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I would agree with that.
No, sorry. So there's a difference between F slur and N word, and both I think should not be used in a fun way. But the F word was used in a fun way for the longest time,
for sure.
I'll tell you something that bothers me about your streams. Not your streams and basically every other stream is the casual use of the R word.
Oh, the ableism, yeah.
I don't know if it's about the able. I don't even know. Listen, it's complicated. I'm not like virtue signaling here.
No, ableism isn't a virtue signal. I mean, like, it's a legitimate, yeah. Like, I get emails from fans that say like, hey, like, I deal with this particular issue. Every time you use this word, it kind of feels like you're attacking me. Like, just like, so it's not, it's a valid concept, yeah.
It's just something cuts wrong for me. Like, for example, I am bothered by the excessive use of the word fuck.
Okay.
But not
in the same way that
moderate use of the word fuck.
What is it? I'm curious. And when somebody calls somebody an R word, what is the feeling that you get that makes you feel bad about it?
It signals to me that you don't give a damn about people who are struggling in ways that you are not struggling. Like that signals to me, like about the experience of others.
Do you think that are there other words also that could convey like a similar feeling to you, or what? Because it feels like you've drawn a pretty special circle around. Because like I imagine I call, oh, this guy's you're an uneducated dumb fuck, or you're a nitwick, or like those words probably
Well,
don't
so
feel that.
that circle keeps changing, and
Which it can, which is fine. It does.
and
Yeah.
I think that's what the whole point with the culture. So I'm trying to feel my feeling is a kind of, I'm a human being that exists in a social context that we're all evolving that language together, and it just feels wrong. Like, the word bitch, for example, it really like I've heard on your streams and in general, calling a woman a stupid bitch really bothers me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not just the word bitch, it's context. Like, for example, me personally, I'm speaking to me personally, like badass bitch is different than stupid bitch.
Sure, or
Way
like a bad bitch or something is different than, yeah, of course. Yeah.
Way different.
Sure.
I think it speaks to a bigger sense of civility and respect for human beings that are not like you. That's the feeling that I'm bothered. And so I guess what I'm trying to say here is, just because people speak in this kind of way in the gaming world and streams doesn't mean that you, like, a lot of people look up to you. It doesn't mean, young people especially, doesn't mean that you don't have the responsibility to sort of stand alone from the crowd, because you're somebody that values the power of effective discourse.
Mm-hmm.
And to be effective discourse, there is some level of civility. So you can be the sort of the beacon of civility in that world versus giving in to the derogatory words. Because, like, you have to lift people out of that world, out of the muck of, what I would say is like drama and ineffective discourse. It's like, I think that's one of your missions, right? Is like to inspire the world through conversation, through debate, through effective discourse.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm just calling you out that I think using our word, for me personally, as a fan that believes in your mission, it just makes you look ineffective and bad and uninspiring to young people that look up to you, because those young people are going to use those words that you're using, and they'll do it much less effectively.
Sure.
This the problem.
Yeah, I guess the challenge is always just like finding the line. Like,
Yeah.
my vocabulary shifted dramatically from even from like 2 or 3 years ago. I think my vocabulary shifted quite a bit as we've kind of gotten rid of some words, and some things are kind of coming in and out. The R word is one that has kind of gone out and come back and gone out and come back. That one we've definitely gone back and forth on. I know there are different thoughts about it in different communities on the internet.
This is interesting. I mean, I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
For me, it cuts, and I'm not a social justice warrior type. It cuts pretty hard.
So what you're saying is I'm going to lose a subscriber if I'm.
No, it's not.
No,
a
I'm just kidding.
subscriber.
I know what you mean.
I actually have to empathize harder, because I'm like, maybe this is not a very good person. That's what I feel. Like, if you're so carelessly using that word, then maybe you're not actually thinking deeply about the suffering in the world. Like, to be a student of human nature, you really have to think about other humans and other experiences that are unlike your own.
Yeah, of course.
And so that's the sense I get. But at the same time, you're also like the grandpa, I mean, ageist, who's trying to be cool with the young kids. So a lot of the reason young kids look up to you is like you also know the language of the internet.
Yeah, but I mean, that's not an excuse to use words that we think shouldn't be used. I guess the question that I would have, because it's always a struggle, and to some extent it's kind of happened, is let's say that like 3 years ago, I would have said, I'm no longer saying the R word. I'm just going to get rid of that in my vocabulary. Like, is there a chance that today we would be having a conversation about, like, why do you call people dumb fucks? Like, is that really appropriate? Like, does this attack at the core of like somebody's like level of intelligence, education, opportunities in life? Like, is that a worthy? You don't think so?
I think that's as the kids say, cope.
You really think so?
I think
because the words have definitely moved in a way where it's like, this was okay, now it's not. This is okay, now it's
so
not.
you're standing your ground by using. Listen, you could, but I think it's better to use those words if you want to defend the ground words stand on, to use them rarely and deliberately, versus how you currently use them, which is to express an emotion. Like I'm going to be honest, you use our word not when you're at your best.
True.
And so that's not.
That's generally, that could be true for a lot of swearing too, though. But yeah, I know what you mean.
No, but like, that our word is offensive, and there's part of it is like the you tell yourself that like you're still kind of fighting political correctness by using it a little bit when you say it?
No, I don't think so. I think I try not to think in terms of like where is the virtue, where like there's a whole bunch of arguments for why some words are okay, some words aren't okay or whatever. And I try to like think more along those lines rather than but like there's gonna be like a lot of phrases where like if the R word has come out, the conversation is over. Like I know that. Like things my brain is shut down, the person I'm talking to is but there's a lot of words also in terms of like like if you ever hear me say like fucking moron in a debate, it's like it's done. Like this conversation is over. There's no way that anything productive is happening past that point.
I think fucking moron is not, I think it's ineffective. It's not civil, but it's not, it doesn't bother me in the way. It's basically when you speak in a way that I know there's a group that's going to be hurt by that.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do I think about the hurt that group experiences, I think of you as a lesser intellectual, like as a lesser person who's thinking about the world. What bothers me the most is just what kind of mindset that inspires in young people,
Sure.
or especially when you're a public figure and a lot of people look up to you. So I definitely don't think sort of this idea, the R word is not the battleground of expanding the Overton window of discourse. Okay. Like I don't think it'll lead to dumb fuck being canceled 2 years later,
Okay.
unless that word is hurting people's experience,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't foresee that happening. I think legitimately R word and F slur and calling women bitches, context matters here too. Like, of course, but just the way I've heard you use it, it is not, it's from emotion and it's from frustration and it ultimately is rooted in disrespect. I think it's ineffective. And of course, like who gets to say, I don't know, but I'm saying somebody who I admire effective conversations and I admire great humor, dark humor, wit. To me, oftentimes the use of the R word in the way you've used it and the way I see the community use it is none of those things. It contributes not at all to the humor and so on. Now, I could see it might contribute to the camaraderie of that particular group, especially when they normalize the use of that word. You kind of take some of the edge off, but you forget that there's a large number of other people that don't have the chemistry, that don't hear the music of the friendship that you have, the relationship you have, and instead they hear the normalization of a hateful word, and it ultimately has an impact that's hateful. And then people like me who show up, I haven't watched much of your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It turns me off from like it. A couple of times your content came before me,
Mm-hmm.
like, and I listened to it a little bit. It turned me off completely. I didn't understand how good your heart is. I didn't understand how your mission of actually de-radicalize people, help people, like and increase the level of good faith discourse in the world. I didn't understand any of that because like what I was hearing is pretty rough, like the R word type of stuff. And I just feel like the benefit cost analysis is heavy on the cost.
Gotcha.
I just have to sort of call this out.
Okay.
I think it, and I straight up think it's wrong. But that's my own.
Why do you think it's wrong?
Because it's hurting people without any benefit to you whatsoever.
When you say hurting people, do you mean the person I'm using it at, or do you think there's like
no,
you're talking about
the
the affected third
listening,
group?
the third group.
It's good feedback, right? I always consider everything, especially I respect you a lot. You're a really smart guy. Something that I always kind of like fight over in terms of like language or like who to attack or what to do is that it's very hard to draw like what boxes are okay to insult people on versus what aren't. So for instance, if I call somebody like a Nazi with a lot of vitriol, I'm okay with every single Nazi being negatively affected by that because that category intrinsically calls upon it some level of moral condemnation for me, right? Whereas like if I'm out there, I try not to do like image related jokes, right? I don't want to call you like, oh, you're a fat fucking loser, because there's a lot of people that are fat, that are overweight, where I don't want them to feel bad. I don't want them, I'm not trying to call you out or like insult you. So there's like a lot of, you say cost benefit. I look at like a lot of collateral damage from a word like that, where there's no purpose in doing that. So certain words are easy to get rid of. They're off the table, right? F slur, N word, like these are not words that you call people because there's so much collateral. It's not worth it. We've got some words where it's like if you have some form of like mental thing, it is a bad thing. You're not a bad person, but just using that word could feel like a collateral damage to those people. And then there's other categories of words. So like if I say that like this person is like it's a stupid fucking Republican, right? There's probably some Republicans that aren't dumb that I don't want to feel called out by that. Like, are those types of phrases that you think should be completely removed as well? Or I'm kind of curious.
So this completely removed, just so we're clear.
Yeah.
I'm not referring to censorship.
No, I'm not even talking about. I'm just a person like emotionally like
removed is the wrong word though. Like I care about like I'm not trying to listen to people on the internet saying like you shouldn't say that word. That's not good. I mean, I'm trying to look to your mind and heart. And the reason we're talking today is you're betraying your gift. You're better than this.
You think it's indicative of like a more flippant thought process where it's like the only way you can say that word is if you're ignoring the hurt and suffering of those people. And if you're somebody that says
even those people, you're ignoring the state of language. Because I think you're getting to the point because it's not about a single word. It's about like it's music. And I just feel like there is
very strong note.
It's a strong note that ruins the melody.
Gotcha.
And I don't think I can say, you shouldn't use the R word or whatever. I'm just speaking to, I'm just listening to music and reviewing the final result. It's not necessarily, because maybe one use of the R word strategically or part of an actual, like, or when you've built up a camaraderie that's sandwiched in like some love, but then you try to reveal their, like, because you're talking about there's a bunch of drama. You have friends with whom you're warring and stuff, and they're all a little bit beautifully insane. And you've said that you are becoming more and more insane. It's beautiful to watch. It's the human condition laid before us. Wonderful. And some of that is swearing and so on. So it's a tricky thing, but the whole skill of discourse, just like it is with dark humor, is walking that line. I just feel like it's overuse of the R word, and I don't want to die in that ground because I don't think it's that representative. Like there's certain things like that. It feels like it ruins the music, and I don't. It's the same like a dumb Republican or a dumb Democrat. I don't. Yeah, that ruins it too a little bit. Depends on how you use it. You can be lazy with that.
Yeah.
Like even overuse of the word, I think bots is what's used for people who don't think or something. I don't actually know the definition. I'm offended on behalf of robots. But and
that might be a compliment soon.
Right, exactly. But I guess bot means you don't think.
Yeah, you're like an NPC. You just copy paste
NPC, right.
Yeah.
Again, I'm offended on behalf of NPCs. I count myself as one. But there's a sense if you say bots too much, that you're just dismissing people. Like everything I say is right, and anyone that disagrees with me is a bot. That's lazy too. Sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's effective. Basically, saying a lot of people in the mainstream media or something like that are bots. Okay, that's a little bit of that is effective, but too much it becomes ineffective. And I'm trying to speak to that. Yeah, and I'm just the reason we're highlighting clear examples like the N word. Joe Rogan had to contend with that.
Oh yeah,
I think it's ineffective. It makes you less effective at discourse. But like you've talked about many times, language is a tricky one.
It's always hard because you talk about like constructing a melody. There's not one melody that sounds good to everyone, but there are probably certain notes that like if you got rid of them, everybody's still going to like it about as much, and you don't really lose anything. There's a whole other part of an audience that might be more willing to listen. Yeah, of course.
And it's not about losing the magic of that melody. Like you don't want to be vanilla. I just feel like there's stuff that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, for sure.
It's fat. But then again, the other thing that people should understand that might be listening to this, you're streaming many hours a day for many years. I don't know. It's
11 or 12, I think. Yeah. I started in 2010.
And so one of the things that people can do is just clip out anything. You're going through the full human experience of emotion, anger, fear, frustration, all of it. So of course there's going to be moments when you're not the best version of yourself. Anything else to say about the language?
It's complicated. I'm still always trying to figure it out. There are opinions that I have that have changed throughout the years. It's possible that the R word has always been the next one on the chopping block that we're all kind of looking at, but people are always worried about that treadmill. But it's possible in a year or two I'll have a different view on it, or I'll have changed away some of the words I use or not. Yeah, it's definitely it's always like a work in progress. There's always like different communities that feel different ways about different words. Yeah.
Yeah, but do you acknowledge that there's people out there
Mm-hmm.
that are never going to talk to you? They're never going to think of you as a good man because you used the N word with a hard R publicly.
In the past, I mean, yeah, those people exist, but I mean, there are some people that are beyond my reach, which I'm okay with. Like, there's going to be some people because of things that have been involved, or even ideas that I have now that might make them beyond my reach. Something you said earlier is very true. I think the goal is to like identify what are the elements that you can cut out that aren't integral to your message, but could be alienating to more people, and those are probably the things that you identify. But I think that you can get lost in yourself, or lost in the internet, or lost in the outside of yourself if you're trying to appeal to every single person. It's just never going to be the case. And I actually like that I've had the journey that I've had on the internet, that you can find me saying and defending a lot of insane stuff 10 years ago, because I think it shows like a level of progress. And I think I do get a lot of respect and buy into certain communities where it's like, I'm not just some random dude telling you that like, oh, you shouldn't say, the F word or the N word. Like, I'm a guy that's been there, that's done it, that's defended it. And you can see my whole past, my whole history is laid bare for you to watch every of, thousands of hours of it. But I can show that like there's growth and evolution and change that can happen in a person. So
Yeah, and you're honest about that growth.
mm-hmm.
It's a tricky thing because people just bring up stuff from your past.
For
right?
sure.
I hope we figure out as a civilization a mechanism to clearly say this was me 2 years ago. This was me 5 years ago. I'm a different person. And like, because Twitter doesn't care about that. These social mechanisms that bring stuff up doesn't care about that. It's like one stupid thing you say, it becomes like a scarlet letter. And I don't know how to fight that. It's tricky to fight that.
Have you ever seen Men in Black?
Yes.
When K&J are on the bench and he says, person is smart, but people are stupid, dumb, finicky animals or whatever. There's something that changes for human dynamics when there is a group of people that make it so hard to control. Like, I think one-on-one, anybody can sit across from somebody and admit to some horrible stuff. I used to be, I abused my husband when I was, 20, and now I'm 35 and I see it's wrong, or I did this, I was addicted to whatever, and, I made these mistakes. One-on-one, it's always easy. But in group environments, that in-group, out-group, tribalistic thing of like identifying one thing and then coming to destroy a person's life is such a huge like impulse we have. And I think probably when we were like hunter gatherers in the forest, it's probably good because you really want to push weird people out or anything like that. But now on the internet, when we can hunt for any dissenting opinion and just with ruthless precision destroy somebody's life over it, it's a pretty scary dynamic.
I think one of the mechanisms that could fix it is make it super easy for each individual person to analyze all the stupid shit they themselves have said in the past. Like a full recording. Because I think people are just honestly paint a very rosy picture to their own brain of who they have been in the past.
Yeah, of course.
If we can have empathy for the fact that we've said stupid shit, or we're drunk, the ridiculous things you say, the offensive things you might have said, the offensive things you might have done, I just feel like that would give us the ammunition to have empathy for others that are like, okay, yeah, this guy 5 years ago said this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that doesn't represent them who doesn't represent who they are any more than stuff I said 5 years ago represents who I am today.
Yeah.
I feel like technology can actually enable that.
Maybe, although you're talking about more recording and more stuff, which people are already wary of, but
it's a double-edged sword.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is going to be more and more recording. We have to figure out how to do that in a way that respects people's privacy and gives them ownership of their data and so on. Yeah. I've looked at the search history I've done on Google, which for most people is available, like your Google search history, and it's fascinating to watch the evolution of a human being. Like, it doesn't seem like the same person. It's like a different person.
For sure.
It's weird.
It's also hard too with the internet today. I'm going to be ageist again, but like now all of the people are thrown together, whereas like I don't want a 27-year-old judging the language of like a 15 or 16-year-old. Like, obviously he's in high school. He's like, there was that story that came out of there was a kid that saved a recording of, I think it was like some white girl. I think that she like got her driver's license and she's like, I can drive now, N-words with the A or whatever. It was dumb. She shouldn't have said it, but I think she was like 15 or 16 when she TikToked this or whatever. And he held on to that recording until she applied and got accepted to college 3 years later. And then he released it to get her kicked out of college. And I'm like, damn. if everything that I had ever said as like a 15, 16-year-old was like immortalized on the internet, my life wouldn't have even begun. And
Give it.
those are insanely high standards to hold people to. Not that like obviously you shouldn't be saying those, you shouldn't be saying certain words or whatever, but you have to be able to make mistakes in adolescence. Like everybody does. We all did. Everybody did it growing up, you know?